Welcome, everybody. You made it. I'm Dale Price. I'm the founder and CEO for Access College America. We're an Austin based, locally leading college planning agency. You'll hear me talk a lot about STEM majors that include business, computer science, engineering, anything pre med. That's because our specialty tends to be these particular majors, those majors that are heavy math, heavy science. That is what we really excel at. So, based in Austin, work a lot with high schools like Westlake, Westwood, LASA, Lake Travis, go Cavs, Bowie, go Dogs, Vandy, a lot of these local high schools. We are deeply rooted in the communities, which I think is important because it's competitive out there, everybody. It's the Hunger Games these days to get admitted into big state flagship schools such as the University of Texas and Texas A&M. Everybody in your high school has got these colleges on their list. Today, we'll be talking about the University of Texas and also Texas A&M, two of my favorite colleges. I will tell you, almost every single person we work with has these two colleges on their list. We are incredibly experienced. We are constantly going through professional development, listening to the counselor updates that is being released. We're following the trends, we're studying the data so that we can relay some of that to you. Because we know one thing, college is not getting any easier. It's only getting more competitive. So it's important that you go through this process really feeling inspired and in control. But I want to emphasize one thing, and I just did a Facebook Live on this very topic. So if you're not following us on Facebook or Instagram or even LinkedIn or YouTube, go and follow us because I want to tell you guys that a lot of this will come down, and we're seeing a lot of great applicants, and where our stats are going up. We're incredibly not only confident, but we are inspired with the success that our agency is having with these two colleges. When these acceptance rates are dropping, ours is going up. A lot of this is coming down to picking the best major, really understanding how to be authentically true to yourself to that application. There is a lot of mass hysteria out there and a lot of people picking the exact same majors. There's a lot of options out there, and you want to make sure that you're picking the majors that are best for you and being competitive with those majors. So if that's the only thing you learned today, my pro tip, which may not sound like a pro tip to you, but it is a pro tip in today's world, be true to yourself. This is about you going through this process, feeling as if you are getting it right. This is about you picking majors that align with the type of career you want to apply into. And this is about starting early also and taking your time. You do not want to rush through this process. What I am going to go over are key stats. I'll go over applying to UT, A&M, some key differences, and all of that nature. But we have a lot of information to cover in a short amount of time, and I jump around a lot. I have got a ton of questions. So for those of y'all that were here for the pre-party, I already started answering some of those. So if you emailed your questions in or if you text them to us, we got them. I'm going to try my best to get through it. And I want to apologize. Shayla, my co-presenter, who is just an incredible source of inspiration and knowledge. You guys, she has way more experience than I have in this profession. She actually is not able to work today because she had a medical procedure done yesterday. So I am flying solo on this. So for those of you that logged on to see Shayla present, I apologize. You're stuck with me. I'm going to try to do the best that I can, but there's definitely no way I can duplicate her type of experience and expertise in this, but I'll do my best. All right, so that's what we'll be covering, and I am going to go over some key stats and all of that stuff. And let's go ahead and kind of dive right in and get your questions. Oh, and by the way, before I go in, you guys, where are y'all from? I bet you anything, we got a ton of seniors on here. So in the chat box, okay, so in the chat box, two things. One, I'd like to know what is the major you're curious about applying to. Is it computer science? Is it biology? Is it, business? And what's your high school? What high school are you attending right now? Maybe even post your questions. So, what major are you interested in? What high school are you attending? And even, you know, um, give me a question that you might have. Post that in the chat box. I love doing shout outs, that's for sure. And while you guys are getting that information ready, University of Texas, we'll start with them, you all. This is a trend that I'm sure everybody is recognizing. Applications are going to go north. They are just, it's crazy out there. They're shooting up over 90,000 applications last year. I remember when it was all in the headlines that UCLA was receiving over 100,000 applications in 1 year. And we're getting there, everyone. Over 90,000 people applied for one of those few precious seats. We're seeing the biggest increase in out-of-state applicants, and part of the reason for that is technology. UT is now on the Common Application, so it's easy to apply, not get in, but it's easy to apply to UT with a simple click of a button. You can add UT to the list. Same thing with A&M. So technology is making it easier, but I saw an interesting statistic that something like 67% of public school students in state have got UT on their list. That is incredible because let me tell you right now, UT is not the right fit for 67% of the public school students. What am I saying by that? You all are feeding into this mass hysteria. Everybody in your high school is applying to the same colleges, same universities, and it's making this so much more competitive. I think that there's a lot of social pressure to get admitted into a school like UT or A&M, and students are attaching a personal value to gaining admission into one of these two big state flagships. So for the last 3 years, stats have just been going up and up and up. Another thing is UT is diversifying their courses and their classes. They're adding new programs and honors programs. And that is another reason why it's attracting so many applications. When we're looking at some of the most popular programs out there, we know that some of those programs do include STEM majors as well. And what I mean by that is, computer science being all the rave these days, anything within engineering as well being quite popular. And so that again is making it even that much more competitive. When we're looking at, for example, business school, we know that they released or that they received well over 16,000 applications last year. That's a 23% increase, you guys. They only admitted around 1,500 seats, which is a 9% acceptance rate. That's for the Macomb School of Business. These stats were released, by the way, at an orientation for first-year students. So 16,000 students applied to the Macomb School of Business for around 1,500 seats. 9% acceptance rate. When we look at the year before, about 13,000 folks applied for the Macomb School of Business. So they're pretty consistent with admitting around 1,500 seats. But here's the real question. Out of the 1,500 students admitted into the business school, how many of them were auto admit? In addition to that, how many of them were actually the right fit for business school? Engineering, it's also very competitive. They had a 35% increase in applications over the prior year. So about 20,000 folks applied to the School of Engineering, the Cockrell School of Engineering, compared to 14,500 in 2024. So overall, the acceptance rate is about 11%. That's down. That's down about 5% from 2024. They typically admit around 2,200 students annually. So, I'm always curious when we hear those auto admits refer to UT as being a fallback school, because it's really not a fallback for anybody these days. It's competitive to get admitted into these schools and these colleges. So, this is why I go back to my original point that you want to make sure that you're authentic with that application. But we're proud that last year we had 30 of our scholars admitted into the University of Texas. My gosh, I already see the questions coming in too. Jay, by the way, is interested in studying finance and from Westwood, Warrior Nation. Love Westwood, you guys. This is a very competitive high school. What I mean by this is, hear me out here, because I think a few of y'all are at a school like this. It is academically rigorous. The courses offered at Westwood, the expectation for excellence. This is not a rural, middle of nowhere high school where the class selection, where they might only have 2 or 3 AP courses. There's a lot of AP courses to choose from at a school like Westwood. And so, what we know about that is the standard for excellence is high. And it's important for you to really be able to highlight your strengths, tell your story, but you're overrepresented in the applicant pool. When you're applying to the University of Texas from a big high school, such as Westwood or Westlake, you have to understand that a lot of folks from your high school is applying too. And UT can't have an entire incoming class of students from your school. So you want to make sure that, again, you're picking the major that really speaks truth to what you want to go into, that you're authentic with that. Getting good grades, testing is going to be important as well. Essays, slam dunk too. So welcome. We got a question. I'm going to continue with the presentation, but I always like to answer some of these live. Question from Anonymous: is there any information available to determine the GPA of the top 5%? I know it depends on the specific school, but just trying to get an idea, because we are unfortunately moving states with the rising senior. Oh my gosh, you guys. That's a tough one to be moving and switching high schools as a rising senior. But listen, hear me out here. All right. And for any of y'all that have been moved like this, a lot of this will come down to the context of your application. Important that the counselor is able to explain context around the GPA and possibly some of the classes you took at your prior high school too. All right. What we don't know is that GPA. We have an average. You can use the common data set if UT releases the stats on this. You can get an idea of the stats of what is a competitive GPA and so forth. But GPAs are all relative. I mean, what is a 4.8 GPA at one high school might not be the same type of merit attached to a 4.8 at another high school. So it comes down to understanding the high school you're attending and what are the typical stats for the student getting admitted into a UT from your high school. So rather than looking at UT, which is admitting thousands of students from all over the country and of course from Texas, instead of looking at that GPA, you want to break this down and understand that you are in a competition within the context of the peers you're graduating with. So meeting with the school counselor, looking at the data points, who's applying, not the names, but based off of the students being admitted into UT or A&M or anywhere really, those that got admitted, what was their typical stats? What were the GPAs? What were the test score ranges? What were some of the classes that they took their senior year? Especially if you're applying to a STEM major, you want to make sure that you're somewhere in line with them. Another pro tip that I'm going to offer you is to use the scattergram activity inside Naviance. You can go into scattergrams, log into Naviance. If your high school has it, look at the scattergram activities, and there's a drop down, and you can pull up the colleges you're planning on applying to, and it will put you on a plot to get an idea of that GPA and the test score range and where you fall into. But what we don't know about the scattergram activities is the major. And we know some majors are more competitive than others. Good question. Other than UT and A&M, what are some of the other schools that that our agency recommends that we or specialize in. So, Prash, I'm glad that you were able to make it, by the way. So we do not only specialize in UT or A&M, it just happens to be on almost everybody's list that we work with because we're based right here in Austin. So, but we get to work on colleges and universities all over the country. So that's there. Hong made it, everybody. I know this name because you've attended some of our other presentations. LASA, UT, Mechanical Engineering. And she wants to know want to ask three major options in the application for auto admit or for all applications. I'm having a hard time understanding your question, Hong, but listen, I think I have an idea of what you're asking. When you're applying to UT and when you're applying to A&M, you're going to list two choices, but only those, especially for the University of Texas, will be considered for the second choice option. So, don't get hung up if you are not considered top 5% at your high school. What is going to be your second choice for the University of Texas? Because they're not going to consider you for your second choice major anyway. And so it's you've really got one shot. Now, the University of Texas does a really good job of trying to give everyone that they're going to get admission to, trying to give them that first choice major. But they'll consider you for your first choice and then your second choice major. But there's also a third option. I like to refer to it as purgatory, and it's undeclared. And essentially, UT has a way of really just kind of weeding people out that aren't the right fit. They know that they're going to be receiving that the person applying to their school is also applying to the other school down the street. And so they can sandbag this thing and they can put you into undeclared liberal arts because they know somebody with stats in the top 5% is probably going to be receiving competitive offers from other colleges. 100% of you, doesn't matter what your class rank is, 100% of you are going to go through a holistic review for the University of Texas. Everybody is going to go through that. The University of Texas has an auto admit rule into the university, but not into the major. And so everybody is vying for one of those few precious seats. And I will tell you this, for those of you that are not considered top 5% of your high school, I do not want you, or even top 10% of your high school. This is for Texas A&M. I do not want you to get discouraged about that and assume that you don't have a shot at getting admitted. As somebody who owns a college planning agency and I see the stats year after year, these colleges will go far outside of the auto admit rule and admit folks into majors that they really are a good fit for. If you're demonstrating leadership, experience, and you're fit to major, you've still got to have good grades and decent test scores. But I mean, I'm literally thinking of somebody who had was ranked in the top 53% of their high school at Bowie, admitted into mechanical engineering. So definitely there is hope. Okay, we have somebody who is at Anderson, love Anderson, beautiful area out there, by the way, interested in biomed at A&M and planning to go into vet school. That is fantastic. I have a dog. I'm an animal lover, and I would be curious from you what type of animals large, small, exotic, would you be interested in working with? Okay, so let's move right along. I want to talk about beating the odds because, again, this is really what it's about. You're in a competition and you do want to beat the odds if UT is the right fit. I want you all to understand when this application starts. It doesn't start on August the 1st going into your senior year. Applying to UT actually does not start your junior year. The application for the University of Texas starts day one of your freshman year of high school. Always cracks me up when parents assume that they're too early to start college planning when they've got a freshman or a sophomore. What exactly do I mean by that? Everything is fair game in the high stakes world of college admissions the day you walk through the halls of that high school. What I mean by that is your GPA, your class rank, the types of classes you can take inside of your high school, how you spend your summers, clubs, organizations. Your story has started. And all of that can be used, right, to your advantage. So, as I said before, 100% of you are going to go through a holistic review. And your story starts your freshman year. It is important that your first 2 years of high school, that you're going through reflection, discovery, that you're doing career exploration, you're learning about majors. These are two separate things, everybody. It's critically important that when you apply to the University of Texas, and I'm going to talk about A&M, so bear with me, but that you're applying with evidence of that intellectual curiosity. And it's worth its weight in gold to a school like UT. They, again, will go far, far outside of the auto admit and admit folks into their school if you've got the right level of experience, the right breadth, the right depth, if you're able to demonstrate leadership and innovation. For those of you that are in band, for those of you that are athletes, it is all good because that also is considered leadership and extracurricular activities. If you're working as well, let's say that you're helping out your family and unfortunately you don't have an opportunity to participate in all these clubs and organizations and research activities. That also counts as an activity working. And so I think what I want you all to understand is that, when you're applying to a school like UT, it's going to be really hard to apply to a school when you're not very confident about the major that you're wanting to apply to. You don't really have any experience in that field. UT has over 170 areas of study. Can you believe it? And everybody tends to pick the same short list of majors they want to apply into. So do yourself a solid, apply, learn about the various majors and find the one that really speaks to you. So start early. Major selection is key. So do career exploration your first couple of years of high school. Start thinking about majors that are going to get you on track for that. Activity building, as I mentioned before, is critical. One of the things that we do in our agency, because we started looking at what is it that the universities, and this is all colleges, particularly those that are going to be more selective. These days, anybody getting admitted into an MIT or Georgia Tech or UCLA, everyone's got good grades. Everyone's got good test scores. What's separating them is going to be the activities. What did they do in high school? And then the strength of the essays. These two areas are very, very important because everyone looks the same on paper. And so how do you back up with evidence that there is validation behind the field that you want to get into? Well, you need to apply as a biomedical engineer today. So I'm going to newsflash you. If you don't know what you want to study, a school like UT may not necessarily be the best fit for you because of the vetting process. You don't apply to UT. You pick a major, and your entire application is filtered through the lens of that major. So that's important. Great essays and great test scores definitely for the win. All right, let me go ahead and answer some of these questions. Any advice for applying as a neuroscience major? Okay, great question. So, anytime we have anybody that's wanting to get into really any field, but especially a STEM field, all right, as a STEM-focused organization, which encompasses business, neuroscience, computer science, we have to get much more specific. All right. Neuroscience is quite broad. Your interest can range in foundations from cutting edge fields to really exploring all different types of areas. And so my question to you, since you want to get into neuroscience, what area of neuroscience? And we need to bring that to the light. Do you want to go into cognitive neuroscience, where you're learning how the brain enables thought and memory and languages? Or maybe you want to go into clinical and translational neuroscience, where you're learning about, Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and ALS. Or maybe, it's emerging frontiers, right? Where you're learning about, different types of neuroethics and philosophies of the mind, where you're studying ethical implications of neuroscience and different sensory substitutes. So when you're applying to a research-rich institution, really getting lower, much more ground level, and looking at the area of emphasis you want to go into and being able to expand on that. So for the person that was just interested in getting into finance, same question for you, does this mean you want to go into corporate finance? How can we really highlight on your application that you're curious, your experience with, executive compensation and incentives, or maybe it's investment and asset pricing. Maybe maybe you took a class on that and you loved studying stock market efficiencies and all of that. Or perhaps it was behavioral finance where you're wanting to learn about investor sentiments and asset bubbles. I mean, these are the areas you want to reference in your essays, right? Because finance is quite broad, neuroscience is quite broad. Same thing with computer science. It's about understanding you as a person. All right, great. So hopefully that was helpful. So for all of y'all out there that are picking these majors, learn about them. Start aligning yourself with experiences and opportunities that you can reference in your application that can create a distinction between just a standard person applying to business interested in finance, someone who wants to really get into stock markets and learn about, corporate finance and all that kind of stuff. This is from Raj, who is the dad of a junior at Westwood. So many Westwood folks here today. How important are test scores for A&M and UT and A&M for students applying to STEM? I did this question at the very beginning, Raj, so great question. And hopefully you were here at the very beginning because I answered that already. Definitely, definitely important. This is Lauren, who is a mom of a sophomore at Westlake. Go Shaps. Love Westlake, by the way. Incredible high school. Great teachers and faculty members. And looks like your student's interested in getting into bio. When should we start looking at research opportunities or internships? Great question. As I mentioned before, when you're applying to a school like the University of Texas, the time is now. Clock is ticking once you're in high school. Now, it's not required to do anything crazy like research and internships. And just because you do research or an internship, that does not mean that you're going to be admitted into the major you're applying to. But this is a way of really demonstrating that intellectual curiosity, providing that validation that the biology is the area I want to go into. Look at what I've aligned myself with. Look at how I've taken advantage of local experiences and opportunities while you're in school. So sophomore year is a great time, but especially during the summer, also extremely awesome too. I mean, so many Austin-based learning experiences. I mean, Del Med has experiences. There's so many biotech startups too, which is great. You can even do research, home-based research projects. You don't even have to do anything expensive. So would love to learn, Lauren, more about your student, particularly as it relates to biology and maybe what their experience has been like, and activities can really, really help out. So this is great questions, you guys. My goodness, I think I could spend the entire time just going over some of these questions. Christine, literally, so I just heard, I'm so happy to hear that you made it. So I know that you guys were, you were texting with us back and forth earlier. Your son's a rising junior at Cedar Park. All right, we actually have one of the lead counselors from Leander ISD on staff with us. We know Cedar Park very, very well. He wants a major in engineering, but isn't sure what type of engineering yet. And that's normal, by the way. So everybody out there, many of you are going through high school and maybe you're unsure of what you want to study. It's very typical for juniors to be drawn to science and math, and maybe they're thinking about engineering, but they don't know what area in engineering they want to get into. It's perfectly reasonable. After UT and A&M, which state schools are considered the best for engineering majors? Great question. And question number two, do you need to know which area of engineering you want to study when you apply to college? Love, love, love the questions, Christine. So first of all, we want to get a better understanding of what type of engineering are we looking at here? Because these colleges are all so different. When we even have liberal art colleges where you actually don't necessarily have to pick a major and you get into the School of Engineering and you get to study a little bit of everything and then eventually focus in an area of distinction. And then we have schools, like UT, where you're actually not applying to the School of Engineering, you're applying to a major. So first of all, I mean, this is going to be a cheeky response, but all the colleges and universities, they all vary in terms of their learning opportunities, co-ops, research, things of that nature. I think it's important that you understand, Christine, here is which of the universities do you have to declare a major up front? Which of these are they screening you against? So, for example, with your junior, let's say that he's unsure of getting into mechanical engineering and he ends up applying to a university and declares mechanical engineering, gets admitted into mechanical engineering, but has an epiphany. That ain't what he wants to do. But he did get a great option from Texas A&M. I'm just being random here. And they have what's called an entry to a major program where you actually don't have to declare a major year one. You just go into the School of Engineering and it buys you time to learn more, gives you more time to study what you want to go into. Maybe a safer bet to pick a department that you're applying into to give yourself more time to go through that process. But I am a big believer that that work can be done right now. And you don't need to know about the area of engineering you want to study before you apply to college unless you're applying to some pretty selective places. Good question. Okay. I'm going to answer some more questions here in a moment, but I do want to just kind of briefly touch on Texas A&M because it is another school that we are incredibly experienced with, and everybody is applying to A&M. A&M these days is not really a fallback for many people. The secret is out about Texas A&M. And their applications as well have been really on the rise over the last few years too. So last year they received over 75,000 applications. You guys, we freaked out. I think it was like 2 years ago or a couple of years ago when UT released that they had 75,000 applications. So we were like, what in the world? That's crazy, right? Well, A&M has joined the ranks. I mean, that's a 13% increase, you guys. This is Texas A&M, right? Where are these applications coming from? Well, the applicant pool is getting that much more competitive because we're seeing a 10% rise in applications from auto admits. Those that know this is in the bag, if I apply to A&M, they're the ones now applying to Texas A&M, leaving less seats for everybody else. So it's always funny because the same strategies apply to Texas A&M as they do University of Texas, as they do UNC Chapel Hill, as they do University of Michigan. A lot of y'all are going to go through holistic reviews where good grades and test scores are the norm. And this is coming down to going through career exploration, major selection, picking the major that you're really right for. It's coming down to activity building. And then those essays have got to be excellent. They've really got to be good. I think that what's happening with A&M also is that they're actually having a right sizing of their campus. It's taken place right now where they're limiting the undergrad enrollment. They're trying to slow the growth over the next 5 to 7 years to kind of right size the class. And, while they're receiving an increase in applications, they actually have admitted less students. In 2024, they admitted less students, about 10% less. They enrolled about 15,000 students, which, is important to note because they're protecting their yield rate and they're seeing they've got a really high retention rate as well. Students are starting at A&M and they're continuing on. And so they can't enroll an overwhelming number of incoming students because where are they going to house them? And how are they going to make sure they're getting through in 4 years if the classes are always full? So keep in mind, there's this interesting environment happening at A&M right now where they are really cutting back on the number of students that they are enrolling to have a right sizing of the campus. And this is coming from the president's office. And over the next 5 to 7 years, they're just going to kind of limit things. There's more than one way to get into Aggie land, though, by the way. The cool thing about Aggies or Texas A&M, they have a range of pathways. You can do Aggie Gateway, you can do Blend Team, you can do engineering at Blend, you can do engineering at Galveston, and then just complete a transfer form or campus transition. It's not even a transfer, it's just a transition form because you're guaranteed. They also have PSA, which is the program for system admission, I think. And by the way, over 19,000 students were offered that option last year. But there are some key differences between A&M and the University of Texas. First of all, we know this is true for Longhorns, but this is like, you got to bleed maroon if you want to go to Aggie land. Aggies love Aggies, and they're protecting their yield rate, and they're admitting less students because of the right sizing. And so what I mean by this is they're looking at demonstrating interest. They need to know if admitted into our university, we want to be number one. They probably can assume you're applying to the other school down the street, UT. They don't want to get turned down, right? Because the most popular colleges in America have a very high yield rate, very high retention rate. Folks are picking this school and it's their number one. And so indicators that they look for on this is, do you know your admissions officer? Have you scheduled an interview with them? Have you done a campus visit? Are you subscribed to newsletters? Are you logging into your Howdy portal after you've applied? Are you and checking the status? And so we encourage everyone. I mean, demonstrating interest is important for A&M, but to be honest with you, everybody should be demonstrating interest because this is not only about the university sizing you up, but this is about you sizing up the university as well. So you should be demonstrating interest to all colleges and all universities when you're applying to them because you've got big decisions to make, and A&M is not going to be the same type of experience as it would be at UT. Now, the other thing to know about A&M, and then I'm going to get back to the questions because I can see it's blowing up, is that a key distinction, aside from they are monitoring your level of engagement with them. So if you're on the bubble, if you're not considered auto admit, and even if you're considered far outside auto admit, there is a football game taking place on the field. And if you are not on the field, you are on the sidelines. It's time to get on the field. You got to be engaged with this. This is a contact sport. You need to know your admissions officer. They need to know you, more importantly, especially if you're coming from a high school that is incredibly academic, where everybody is applying to the same colleges and universities. So you want to know your admissions officer. You want to go and tour those facilities. And a lot of the information you're learning, guess what? You get to use it in the essays. The essays is really where you're going to be able to get this football across the finish line if you can speak the same kind of language that the admissions officer is speaking. You can talk about traditions and learning experiences and labs and facilities that UT doesn't have, right? You can talk about faculty members that are focusing in an area of research that is really sacred to you, an area of research that you really want to get admitted or you really want to study. This is a lot different than just saying, I want to go into finance. We're actually talking about the area of finance and what you've done in high school and how that professor can complement the research or the volunteerism that you've been doing. So when we're working on those essays, the folks that are beating the odds, competitive essays, they're bringing research to the table. And when I say research, now I'm talking about research about the university they're applying to. One thing that we require everybody to do in order to apply to any university, you got to give us 5 reasons. Give me 5 reasons why you're applying to that university. If you can't give me 5 reasons why you're applying to that school, it doesn't belong on your list, or you don't know enough about it. And the reasons, parents, here's an exercise for you. At the end of this webinar, turn to your kid and say, what's the number 1 school on your list? Watch them say UT or A&M. Tell me 2 reasons why you want to apply to that school. If their answer goes something like rankings, reputation, location, good school. It's all general. That's generalization. There's a lot of colleges that are ranked. There's a lot of colleges in Austin. There's a lot of colleges that are good schools. They don't know enough about it. And so we got to get back to the drawing board. And really, they need to be able to tell you about the department that they would be studying under, right? So, which requires us to get off of the front page of a website, go to the department that you would be focusing on, learn about the faculties, areas of research, read the school newsletter. How about that? Go look at the current events happening at the department, the biomedical engineering department. Go read about that. Go see what they're doing. Who are the speakers that they're bringing in? What is it that they're really spending investments in? And that is going to be great for you to talk about in your essays. I keep going back to these essays, everybody, because the essays are one of the reasons why you're going to get admitted. You want that essay to be a slam dunk. You want that admissions officer to go, I only have X number of seats. This essay really speaks to me. I know if I give this person a seat, they're coming here and they're graduating. So that's kind of what you're looking for. The other key distinction about A&M is that they have rolling admissions. That application is opening up on 8/1, August the 1st. That's coming that day for you seniors. I know y'all better get ready. It's coming. It's happening. We recommend that, here's my disclaimer. First of all, you never apply to a college until you feel confident and ready to. But we like to get all of our college applications done by September the 1st. All of our seniors, they go into the senior year, applications are on top of the stack while everyone else is sleeping, while everyone else is kicking that can down the street. Our seniors are swooping up the spots. It is easier to get admitted into a university when you apply at the beginning of the application season. It's a fact. That's where all the seats are at. So when you apply towards the end, all the good stuff is gone. And the acceptance rates are not going to be as generous either, right? Especially for schools like the Mays School of Business, where there's only 1,500 seats. So at A&M, by the way. And so it's important that you do prioritize colleges that have rolling admissions. You want to get those in first. And you want to focus on scholarships. That's going to be important too. So very, very important that you understand some of those distinctions. Okay, I'm going to get to these questions because y'all are going to start logging off otherwise. I recognize this school, by the way, Hill Country Christian. We work with folks from Hill Country Christian. That's awesome. And I want to go into law, medicine, engineering. You are incredibly ambitious. I have a guess? You're probably going to be a future leader. You're a leader now. My question, the SAT scared me too. Is there anything I should do well? Is there any things I should do to do well on it? And does UT and A&M care about it? Listen, guys, I'll be honest with you. I was awful. I was awful with the ACT. I don't even want to share what the score was that I hit, but look, I was able to do it. I made it. I still graduated from UT. Test prep. You're going to have test prep. I really recommend it. There's some really great free resources out there. And then there's other resources out there that are not free. We include test prep in some of our packages. So we have add-on options in which you can purchase a test prep voucher. The other is research. You know, maybe that ship has sailed. Maybe the test score is what it is. You have anxiety, it stresses you out, and it's just painful. And it is what it is. Then we need to take the attention off of the test score. And the way that we do that is in your activities and in your essays, and also in timing the submission of that application. We don't want to take anything for granted. You can use time to your advantage. Rouse. We got Cameron here, who is at Rouse. Listen, a lot of families from Leander. We have the lead school counselor working with us from Leander High. And I mean, this is a great school district. It's booming. Everyone is moving out there these days. Who is going to be a nursing major? I love it. And I attended the Aggieland Saturday camp at A&M. Wonderful. And I went on a campus tour and attended various informational sessions and had a meeting with my admissions advisor. Nice job, Cameron. You're playing the game. And this is what I'm talking about. Will they look for that when reviewing your application, and is it taken into consideration? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Anytime you add your name, your information, your mailing address to a registration list, it's getting logged somewhere. And do they keep track of that? Do they keep track to know who was engaged or was there somewhere on the application to put everything you have done with the college? What a great question, Cameron. Look at how attention to detail she is, you guys. And she wants to be a nurse. That gives me confidence. I love it. I absolutely love it. So when you apply to A&M, they'll actually, well, the application last year asked, what were the different ways that you engaged with us? But all this data is getting housed somewhere, Cameron. I recommend following up with your admissions officer with a handwritten thank you note. Probably going to sit on their desk. They'll see your name over and over and over, and that'll be important. So not only your admissions officer, but also the nursing recruiter at that campus. This is about relationships. This is about creating rapport. You want to have an alliance inside the Office of Admissions when they're reading your application. So great job and good luck to you. Somebody says they want to apply to engineering, but they're not sure. That's normal. That's okay. That's very typical too. All right, so key distinctions, the holistic review with UT, demonstrating interest with A&M. UT also has an expanded resume. You can download the expanded resume from our website, totally free. We use it with all of our scholars. I'll show it to you here in a moment, and so forth. Here's another question I wanted to answer as well. This is Greg, dad of a sophomore at LASA. The kid's interested in data science. That's amazing. And the question is, what's the difference between computer science, data science, and computational engineering at UT? They all sound the same, don't they? Data science, computer science, computational engineering. This is a lot of the work that we're doing early on. Before you pick that major, you've got to know the differences. So think of computer science as like programming, problem solving, that sort of thing. Data science, think of, big data, think of statistical models. And then computational engineering, think of it as like applied math, physics, a little bit of code. They do sound a bit techy, but they have very different academic flavors. And the admission selectivity is going to be different as well. So these are three different majors. The experience necessary to get into computer science will be different than the experience necessary for data science and so forth. So great question, Greg. And it's important that your kid understands some of those differences. This is from Claire, who is the mom of a senior at Anderson, who's interested in going into biochemistry. Does UT look at the senior year grades? Yeah. Well, yes and no. You have to send when you apply to UT, all college, you're going to report the classes that you're taking, and then you got to send them your final transcript. So they're going to look at those grades, yes. But what is being factored into the decision is your GPA and class rank at the end of the junior year. The cool thing is, even if your high school doesn't rank you, because how many times have I heard our high school doesn't rank? All the time. You're going to be ranked from the university. In fact, I love how transparent A&M is. When they receive your transcripts, they're actually going to release to you what is your rank. Now it'll be in quartiles, so it'll be 25th or 50th quartile, but it's actually nice to see what does that breakdown look like. And it is validation. These colleges are all going to rank you. So, but it's only the class rank at the end of the junior year that's going to be factored into the decision making. Great question. My gosh, you guys are awesome with some of this stuff. Moving on to the other question, advice for math. Some of y'all are posting as anonymous. I'd love to know the names, but that's all good. If you do not take algebra in middle school, therefore, okay, so advice for math. If I did not take algebra in middle school, therefore we'll end with pre-cal. Should you take a summer math course, geometry, to accelerate, even if that summer course is on level? Or should you continue your track and just take all of the courses as AP honors courses? You guys, this is a great question because it's all about the sequencing of those core classes. And if you're applying to a STEM major, getting to the more advanced math, rigorous math is important, but also equally important is your performance. So I don't have enough information about you to be able to advise whether or not you should kind of play Tetris with the sequencing here, depending on the major you're applying into and your performance as well in your current classes, we may recommend, but you know what? Geometry is not always a prereq. I'm sorry, Algebra 2 is not always a prereq for geometry. And in some cases, we recommend doubling up in the math with Algebra 2 and geometry so that your sophomore year or even your your sophomore year, you would do pre-cal and then get into AB or BC calculus junior year, and then getting into multivariable your senior year. I would need to sit down with you and look at your transcripts, look at your performance, and then look at your high school, the catalog, and look at the classes that they offer, and then also look at the school profile to get an idea of what is everyone else doing. Now, because we're local, I have an idea of how competitive it is. But great question. You're on the right track with maybe squeezing in geometry over the summer if you can hang it. Junior from Leander, I bet you know Miss Woods. I was wondering how to proceed if you're not sure what to major in. Does UT and A&M have flexibility to choose classes from different majors first year? Start learning about that now. UT has a really great inventory called My Majors. You can go online and you can do a search for it, and then it asks you a bunch of questions and populate possible majors that you may be a fit for. All right. I want to launch this poll as well, because I always forget to launch these polls. There is a question at the very end if you want to schedule a discovery call. Students, because I know I got a lot of y'all here today. The discovery call needs to go through your parents. So make sure you get parent permission if you want to book a discovery call. That's important. There's really 4 reasons why folks in Austin are working with us and folks all over Texas. But I will tell you that one, we're local, and that matters when you're applying to competitive places like UT, like A&M, when everybody in your high school is also applying there. You want to work with somebody who understands the grading scale, the resources, clubs, organizations. All of that really is important. But we've been in Austin for over 8 years. So we're not a pop-up. We've been here for a while. We're deeply rooted in the community. Additionally, we have that STEM specialty about us. So, if your kid is interested in nursing or biochem or any major heavy math, or maybe they don't know what they want to study, which is normal, this is the area in which we have an expertise. So you'll have 2 types of coaches. You'll have generalists and you'll have specialists. If you're an athlete, you want to go to a specialist. If you want to do performing arts and you want to be on stage, you want to go to a specialist. If you want to go overseas, you want to go to a specialist. If you want to study a very competitive major like, STEM, you want to come to the pros. The third reason why I think a lot of folks really turn to us, it's our essay prep services. Best in class. Looking at the data and the stats, our acceptance rates are generally very competitive. And that's because of the essays. This is where you really get an opportunity to go through this process and you feel confident. You're able to really tell your story. You're able to provide insight. Now, the way the essay prep services work is we have both hands-on intensive workshops in which you get to review competitive essays, non-competitive essays. You go through brainstorming activities and breakout sessions, and it also is complemented with an essay specialist in which you go through revisions and you have conversations about your outline and your technique. And then you also get final approval from your actual college consultant. So it's layered, and you kind of want as many people reading these essays before you send it. Because what happens if you made a mistake and no one caught it, right? So it is a series of, it's a holistic experience in which you're going through these revisions and edits and having thoughtful conversations about what you're working on. And you're really able to dig deep about the why and where and how you're applying to that school. And finally, we have great add-ons. Testing, we have test prep now as an add-on, and you can also add on research projects in which it's 6 courses and you get to pick a topic of your choice. The schedule is released. And then after you're done, you actually have something you can reference in your application, whether it's research, a presentation, you're mentored with an Ivy Leaguer, and the 6 classes are very small. It typically is between 4 and maybe 6 or 7 other students. And the classes are targeted towards the area that you want to focus on. So the research projects are brand new. We have recently added those, and it's only a $500 add-on as well. So I want to show you guys a couple of resources before we really do jump out of here. Okay, if you are interested in learning more about our college planning services, then you can turn to the, one second here, the Contact Us button right here. And then I think everybody can see my screen. Hopefully you can see my screen. You can click on the Contact Us, and then parents, then you can actually schedule the time right here, right? And that'll be with me. This is when we go over our pricing and our packages as well. It's 30 minutes, and we are currently working with rising seniors. The brand new option we have is called a Flex Prep program. And somebody put it in the chat box if for any reason you're not seeing my screen. I think that you are. I think so. That Flex Prep option is great. Brand new, we have a main essay package right now. Main essay package, and I just realized I had the chat box turned off for everybody. Sorry about that. Main essay package currently on sale only $4.99. It normally is priced at $5.99. So you can go on to the website right here. I'm going to put this link in the chat box, and you can register for this. So if you just need help with the main essay, that's it. Then you'll get access to our workshop. It's a 2.5-hour hands-on intensive. And then it also comes around with one-on-one coaching and also email support as well. Perhaps you want access to all of our group workshops. This is a DIY option. You just get to go through our workshops and you kind of do everything on your own. We have a masterclass program for rising seniors currently on sale for $2,000. But if you are a freshman, sophomore, or a rising junior, Masterclass Basic is option. Every month you get programming. It's only $60. Enroll anytime, cancel anytime. Every month you get exclusive programming with action items attached. So these are great group opportunities in which you're not really getting one-on-one coaching, but this is ideal for somebody that wants to do all of this on their own, but they still want some guidance, some information, and you can go ahead and go online, and every single month it's only $60 and you can cancel at any time. Our next presentation is actually going to be conversations with a consultant. All right, for those rising seniors that are here, y'all need to go run and register for this. This is when we go over step by step the schedule, what to do. We're going to answer your questions specifically as it's relating to those applications. It's literally one day before those applications go live, everybody. And this is a big one. We're not going to be doing this topic again. So if you are a rising senior and you are just now getting started, y'all better go register for that one. This right here is from our masterclass program. So maybe you want to test out the waters before you enroll. We've opened this one up to the public, and this is on how to work with your high school counselor. So if you are part of our masterclass program, then this is public and you're going to get to participate in this one. And this is where we go over how to work with your high school counselor, which is very important, especially if you are a freshman or sophomore or junior, because your counselor is your ally. They're your friend. They're going to get this whole thing across the finish line. You need to know how to work with them. And then for the Austin families, parent coffee at More Than a Teacher. Come on over, meet with John, have coffee, pastries. This is just a sit-down opportunity to ask questions. It's 1 hour. It's free. It's on Saturday, August the 23rd, and it's at the More Than a Teacher office in Westlake. Go ahead and register for that. It's totally free. There's no agenda, just an opportunity for us to sit down and answer some of your questions. So hopefully that was helpful. Okay, want to go over the poll question. Before I do that, make sure that you are staying connected with us as well. Lots of resources that we have on Facebook. We do scholarship spotlights. I actually just did a Facebook Live today about picking a major. We'll reinforce deadlines, reminders. So make sure that you're following us on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube as well. Lots of really great resources on there. Let's get to some of these poll questions before we wrap it up. All right. Class rank is the most important statistic in your college admissions application. 100% of y'all got this right. That like warms my heart. It's not the most important statistic in your application. I think many of you think that it is. but it's not. I love that you guys got that right. Applying to UT before the deadline increases my chances for admissions. 50% of y'all, this was right in the middle. 50% of y'all was 50-50. UT does not have rolling admissions. You can hold onto that application and submit it when you feel good about it. A&M has rolling admissions. So, but it will not be advantageous for you to rush and submit that application. The expanded resume is required for UT. This is a great poll. Some of you guys got it right, but 60% of you got it right. It is not required. You need to do it. In fact, I want to show you guys on the website where you can download our expanded resume template totally free. If you go to our resources page up here, you click on the blog right here. Check out our blog, you guys. There's lots of really great resources right here that you definitely want to read, including the expanded resume. I'm going to put this link in the chat box for those of you that are joining us right now. So click on the links in the chat box. This has got our downloadable template for how to organize that, how to format that. So you can click on this and we'll go more into the outline for how to organize and manage that expanded resume, which is not required for college admissions, but is extremely important. And anybody who's applying to University of Texas, at least for us, it's required. They're doing it. All right. UT wants your letters of recommendation to come from outside your school. 40% of you got this wrong. Last year, they did prefer outside readers. So they wanted those to come from outside. All right. So thank you, everybody, for attending today's presentation. I would love to see you guys at a future event, whether it's a parent coffee, a school presentation, maybe an additional webinar. Go grab that spot for the master class. This is the first time we have opened that up to the public. Those are exclusive events just for families that work with us, or schedule a discovery call to prepare, apply, and achieve. Hook 'em horns and gig 'em, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.